Hello my friends and welcome back. It's Friday, so happy end of the week to you, and it's gonna be a happy end of the week for Russians in Russia because it's 9th of May and it's the biggest day for them in the year. And in this photo you can see exactly how Ukrainians are sending their gifts to the Russians and to Vladimir specifically. Happy 9th of May, Vladimir. Happy Den Babedy or Victory Day, because they have their massive parade or whatever in Moscow right now. But Ukrainians have been preparing for 2 whole days, and I'll show you. In this video we'll go through every piece of footage, and they're so juicy because Ukrainians made the biggest missile and drone attacks for 2 days in a row before 9th of May, before today, for preparations of today. 7th and 8th of May, Ukrainians sent out this. You can see it on the photo right here. The arrows represents the waves of the drones, and I'll read it to you also, so we're all on the same page. The attack continues. Our strike drones have been attacking Russia for more than 24 hours. Right now, new drones are continuing to fly into the territory of the Russian Federation. Judging by the reports of the Russian military intelligence, more than 500 drones have already been involved in the largest attack of all time. Now that's a wow if there's any. What else is known at this moment? 9 regions of Russian Federation are under attack right now, including Moscow. Very nice. Shaikovka airfield, Tu-22 M3s are based there, and that was attacked. Then, collapse of the Russian airports. More than 255 flights have been delayed or cancelled. A strike was carried out on the airfield near Moscow, where the aircraft was stationed that was supposed to do all the aerial tricks on 9th of May parade. I don't want to spoil everything. We'll go through all bits of footages, and we'll begin with Ka-52s, attack helicopters. See, Russian air defense capabilities now all across Russia have been concentrated around Moscow to defend that precious parade of theirs. And we all know that the air defense Pantsir SS-300, S-400, they're not the most effective with their kill ratio of taking down drones. So they deploy additional measures. And what are these? Well, one of these are regular patrols of Ka-52s around Moscow, hunting for Ukrainian aerial targets. You could see it on the footage right now. One Ka-52 engaged a Ukrainian drone. This makes me happy. Now I bring you a Russian today in Moscow who saw the aviation show of the 9th of May parade. And you know, I mentioned it before, we're gonna go through it, but Ukraine attacked the airfield near Moscow where the aircraft were stationed that were supposed to do the air show. So potentially a lot of them got damaged. And here I read the subtitles of an unhappy Russian about the small scale of the air show. Is that all? Is that all? And you can only see like 10 of the planes. Is that all? Where are the rest? This is a shame, mixed with pride of our military aviation. I'd rather film this ship and films a random passenger ship. Oh, Russians do have a sense of humor. That's a really good thing on them. This guy's not happy about the small scale of the aviation show, and Ukrainians made sure that aviation show is going to be small because they damaged some of the aircraft that were supposed to do that. Check it out. This is Kubinka airfield near Moscow. And the fire have been confirmed by NASA firms MAP, Orbital Fire Monitoring System. 2 separate fires were detected on this airfield. The base houses multiple Russian Air Force aerobatic demonstration teams prepping for Moscow's Victory Day parade. Hooray, my friends! Wow, because these aerobatic teams and their planes got some presents from the Ukrainians. And some of the planes couldn't lift up. So sad. By the way, Moscow is going totally crazy with the 9th of May parade, more than ever before. All bigger roads in the around the center, a few square kilometers around the center of the parade, the Red Square, are closed off. Even highways. In Moscow district, Khimki, people leave their cars and walk along the highway due to closures of the Moscow Circle Highway. Check it out, just closed. Everybody has to leave their car and walk home because they're not allowed to drive their car in front of their apartment building. And Moscow has a massive amount of people, so this is a strange sight to see. My friends, United States and Ukraine signed the mineral deal. And you can see it here. Zelensky says mineral deal with the US is truly equal. And here it is shown to me in Ground News, #1 news comparison site in the world. See, I found this article by going to For You tab in the Ground News and clicking Ukraine war. This way I only see these two topics. These are my interests. In Ground News, by taking the example of the mineral deal article, we can see that total news sources are 114. Leaning left of them is 11, leaning right of them is 19, and center is 20. And in the bias distribution tab, you can see it visualized with color, left 22%, center 40, and right 38%. Everything is visualized right here in front of your eyes. You can throw away the garbage and only follow what you really want to read. Talking about that, the garbage, there's factuality tab. Mixed factuality, I don't want to do that. High and very high factuality, that's what I want to read. You can control which news sites have which factuality, where are they leaning, who is the owner of that. For example, Euronews media conglomerate, European Broadcasting Union, because every owner has a different agenda. You can find out the ownership and the factuality at the same time in all of these articles. And by the way, the wording also changes depending on the agenda. For example, Radio Free Europe, Radio Liberty is owned by government. United States Agency for Global Media, it is high factuality and it is in the center. And check out the wording. Ukraine hails minerals deal as helping strengthen US support for its security. That's a nice title. So if you want to keep the garbage, low factuality news out of your attention, sign up to Ground News. Go to ground.news/Artur to take back control on how you stay informed. Save 40% on the Ground News Unlimited Access Vantage plan and see all sides of every story and come to your own conclusions. Thank you, Ground News, for sponsoring today's video. All right, my friends, continuing with the juicy topics. These 2 days lasting Ukrainian biggest attacks involving 500 drones and missiles, 7th and 8th of May. Now, the outcome for the Russian domestic aviation has been very clear. It has collapsed. I kid you not. Let's look at the footage. In the 4th year of the war, Ukraine suddenly found a real weak point for the Russian Federation. This is air traffic. Due to massive drone attacks in the European part of Russia, flights are paralyzed today. Airports in a collapse. We're talking about thousands and tens of thousands of Russians stuck in separate airports in Russian cities and abroad. For example, Turkey. Russians love Turkey. They go there to sunbathe or whatever. They cannot get back because flights over Russia just completely collapsed because of this massive attack. To illustrate it even more, here is an airport, Moscow airport, one of those. They have many. And you can see that civilian airliners are just lined up one by one, stuck in the tarmac. None of them can lift off. And people in those airplanes are waiting 8 to 10 hours and more because they cannot fly. It's a massive bottleneck. I mean, look at that traffic jam of airplanes. Wow, a beautiful sight. People are sleeping everywhere on the escalators, wherever they can, because as I said, tens of thousands of people stuck in airports all across Russia. As I mentioned, it's Turkey, it is also Saudi Arabia, it is Dubai, everywhere where Russians love to go back and forth. Well, they cannot now leave the airport anymore because their plane is always postponed 1 hour, and they have to remain there. This is, it's a symptom of being member of a terrorist state, I would say. This was the most massive attack by the Ukrainian armed forces. 447 drones from, at that point at least, were sent out. Now they claim over 500. A very nice number. By the way, Russians themselves claim that they shot down a massive number of Ukrainian drones. Russian air defense shot down 524 Ukrainian UAVs, 5 Neptune missiles, 6 JDAM bombs, and 2 HIMARS projectiles in the last 24 hours. They also took down 2 Death Stars and 5 killer lasers from the Ukrainians and 10 weaponized pigeons. Well, the Russian Ministry of Defense, they're a bit crazy with their numbers. So what else did Ukrainians attack besides that airfield close to Moscow? I'm glad you asked, my friends. Let's go to Tatarstan in Russia. And this is the KAMAZ plant. I'm just showing you footage and photos of smoke coming out because we don't have anything close enough to it, but we know it's a KAMAZ plant. This plant makes vehicle equipment for the Russian army. It produces diesel engines, trucks. It is under US, UK, EU and Canada sanctions, and most of Russian logistics, majority is done through these KAMAZ trucks coming out of this plant. So Ukrainians attacked it, sent a little present to it. Happy 9th of May, Russians. But that is not the only plant they attack, because now we jump to Saransk in Russia, and there they have a massive fiber optic plant. Very important because fiber optic drones have made a massive appearance on the front on both sides, and you cannot jam them. You can only take them down by kinetic means, by shooting them down, which is very difficult. So they are effective drones. Russians are mass producing their own fiber optic cable, and Ukrainians are also. But in this instance, the fiber optic plant in Saransk region was attacked. Ukrainians sent their presence there for the Russians' 9th of May. And here is more footage, more photos about it, massive columns of smoke coming out. It's a very strategically important plant for the Russians, and now it is pushing up sunflowers, as you would say. And what drone did the Ukrainians use? Well, here is a photo that Russians took of the drone in the air over Russian sky. What does it remind you of? This one, FP1 drone. Ukrainians just revealed this drone in a public exhibition. Looks very awesome. And now we know that it's connected to the Saransk fiber optic plant, demilitarizing it. So, very nice. I just want to bring you this list because this is a list of confirmed Ukrainian drones that are in serial production, mass production. These are long-range drones. We've seen some more, some less, but all of these are flying into Russia. We're talking hundreds, if not thousands of kilometers. Some have flown to Murmansk over 2,000 kilometers, confirmed. So these pack a punch. So Russian government doesn't like the fact that their own people are filming and taking photos of Ukrainian drones and the aftermath. So what they decided to do for the duration of May the 9th is cut internet of all people, everybody. We're not talking, oh, let's just slow it down. No, they've straight out cut it back to the Stone Age. Mobile internet will be completely disconnected for 60% of Russia on May the 9th. And we're talking the European part of Russia, if there's anything like it, because European and Russia doesn't go together in the same sentence usually. Absolutely all services will be down, including banking, taxis and deliveries. Almost the entire Russian Federation is already without internet. Complaints are coming from Moscow and 30 regions. Terminals don't work, taxis can't be called, doctors can't connect to medical systems, money can't be borrowed. So sad. And airports in the state of collapse, restaurants, shops, nothing works because you don't have an internet, you cannot make the electronic payments, you cannot get medical aid because doctors need the systems, online systems to know, even what operations have been done on you before. Exactly the anamnesis, or I don't know how you call it, is up in the medical systems, in Estonia at least. You don't get that, you're screwed. Restaurants, metro is closed, food delivery, everything. It makes me very sad. No, it makes me very happy. And by the way, one of the secondary outcomes of this is that the tunnel system for traffic doesn't work. There are even traffic lights at some instances don't work if you cut everything, all connectivity. And in this instance, we go to one of the long tunnels in Moscow. Cars are stuck, thousands of cars stuck, and you can already see the build-up of CO2 and everything else that comes out of the nozzles of the cars. People being stuck there for hours and hours. They will breathe that in. If you know anything, like it, you can get poisoned because of that. But it's Russia, so what are you gonna do? Now I want to introduce you to Estonia. Actually, more specifically, the most eastern building in the whole of Estonian country. This is the Narva castle, right on the river of Narva that separates Estonia from Mordor, pretty much. And 9th of May, Russians set up a huge stage on their side to face towards Estonian Russians who want to take part of that barbarity. So we gave a little present to them also. We put up a massive European Union flag and a massive poster where there is Hitler and Putin together in one face. Butler, war criminal. So every Russian on the Russian side of that river doing their 9th of May shenanigans will see that they are representing a terrorist state with a terrorist war criminal leader. That's our present to them. What about the world leaders who arrived in Moscow? Well, that's a little bit wrong because they didn't. Brazilian and Chinese leaders did arrive, but everybody else pretty much cancelled except for the Central Asian leaders who have always been there. In this video, we can see a very boring ceremonial video of them two walking towards each other very slowly. Gets me yawning, you know, nothing special about it. Later, they drank tea and signed some stuff. But the main point is that most of Putin's pals won't go. I was really happy to read about this. According to Russian media, more than a third of Putin's friends won't be showing up on May the 9th. What a shame. Over a third of Russia's allies have declined to attend the Moscow parade, each citing various reasons. Some countries are sending only low-level delegations. Pakistan has completely ignored the event, while India will send a delegation from its Ministry of Defense. Half of the BRICS leaders won't be attending either. South Africa is sending its defense minister. Iran will be represented only by its ambassador. Hungarian Prime Minister Orban also snubbed the visit. And from the EU, only Slovak Prime Minister Robert Fico, a traitor, is expected to attend. A big sad for Putin. Talking about Fico, you know, the European traitor, the pro-Russian leader of Slovakia, he was trying to fly to Moscow through the Baltic airspace. That would be the fastest route. Then we were like, hey, no, you're gonna betray us. We don't let you through our airspace. Go back from where you came from. This is a big middle finger from us Estonians to Fico, because we don't like them traitors like that. Same thing happened to the president of Serbia, whose plane was denied entry into the Baltic airspace. Boom, the Baltic showing where it's at. He was forced to take a massive detour through Azerbaijan to reach the parade in Moscow, and it doubled his flight time. And Fico was so sad, he made a video saying, Estonia informed us a few minutes ago that they won't allow us to fly there. Oh, so sad. Look at that sad eyes Fico right here. I'm just waiting for the Slovakian people to get their brains together and vote a normal person to lead their country, not a pro-Russian puppet. And here I want to introduce you to two European traitors. I mean, one of them is Serbia, not so European at all, but Robert Fico and Alexander Vucic recorded a video in Moscow holding hands and saying how happy they are to be there. Look at that. Is there something else than friendship in between these two? Look how deeply they're watching into each other's eyes and holding them hands. What else is touching? I don't know. This is a very strange video. And I think they're staying in the same hotel, in the same room also. They look like that at least. Yeah. They're in Moscow. I hope they stay there and never come back. Here is Vucic also on the Red Square talking his pro-Russian bullshit talk. Again, I hope he never returns. My friends, today I went to buy me a coffee and I discovered I don't have any new monthly members. That's a big sad for me, but no worries. I took the guys who sent me messages in Buy Me a Coffee. By the way, I reply to every last message in Buy Me a Coffee, so you want to chat with me, come there. So I took a photo of these messages, and I will butcher some names of the guys who were brave enough to write to me in Buy Me a Coffee. Jason Big Tati Williams. Janone joulupukki. Joulupukki should be Santa Claus in Finnish. Joulupukki. Kiitos. Onikka from Romanica. Romania, yeah? Onikka from Romania. Boris Ekner. Josep Ramirez. Thank you for these people for sending me a message. I will be replying to you, but also become a monthly member on Buy Me a Coffee so I can butcher members' names also. You think this video is crazy enough? You haven't seen nothing yet, my friends. We have tons of videos of more that came out in the last 24 hours. I'll be showing you all of it, so bear with me. We start with Ukrainians supposedly crossing the Dnipro River close to Kherson and closing to the eastern bank of the Dnipro. This is at least what Fighter Bomber, one of the biggest Russian military bloggers, writes in his Telegram. I'll read it to you. The crests landed on the left bank of the Dnieper in the Kherson region of Russia. Last time I checked, it was Ukraine, occupied Ukraine. Fierce fighting is currently underway at the landing site with the Ukrainian armed forces using drones, artillery and aircraft. Our forces are responding, striking at the enemy firing points on the right bank. And this is the Kherson Bridge, Antonovsky Bridge. It's broken. Now, yeah, there's a circle here. A fighter bomber claims they landed here. But I'm here to say to you that this ain't true. This is Oleshki. Ukraine has definitely did not land in Oleshki, or even if they did, it's a very minor incursion, because Russians have presence there, and a big landing operation into such an area would result in massive casualties for the Ukrainians. So I am here to state that either this is an information fake, or they landed somewhere else, or it's a very small recon battle. We haven't seen anything big on the Ukrainian side to pull through a big, massive push that would be needed to take Oleshki. I mean, I think Fighter Bomber is making it a little bit bigger than it is. But you know what's not bigger than it is? This donkey. The rear end of that donkey carrying Russian ammunition to the front with the Russian troop guiding it. Donkey logistics is now becoming quite big in Russian army, because as you could see before in the video, the KAMAZ plant was attacked. Major logistic vehicles in Russia are KAMAZ trucks, so they gotta make do with the KAMAZ donkey. The minus with the donkeys is if it explodes, like here, the donkey is running. Stoy, bled, stoy! The Russians are trying to speak loud Russian words to it to get it to stop, but the donkey is apparently German, doesn't really respond and keeps running away with the ammunition. Donkey logistics, it works until it doesn't. By the way, talking about Russians on the front with animals, I mean, the donkey, yeah, they use it for logistics, but here we see Russians or Chechens, maybe they're Kadyrovites, with some sheep. Because I'm not going to tell you anything, you know what I'm talking about. Kadyrovites have been known to really fraternize with sheep. There are videos about it, photos about it, I cannot show it to you, but they really like their sheep for some reason. Don't ask me why. Here is a video of sheep being brought back to the Russian positions for some reasons. You can put the reasons in the comments. I cannot talk about them. Talking about Russian logistics, my friends, and donkey logistics, maybe you might ask, why are they using these donkeys? I mean, surely this one KAMAZ plant, and they have more, right? Well, here is one of Russian logistics points on the front. I mean, you use your KAMAZ truck, you gotta park it somewhere. So you find this abandoned hangar close to the front and you park your KAMAZ trucks inside of that because it sheathes you from Ukrainian drones, right? Wrong. Ukrainian fiber optic drones discovering these KAMAZ trucks right here, looking at them, they are pretty shiny and beautiful. Would be a shame if something happened to them. Well, that's exactly what happened. They burned to the ground. I'll save you some time. That's what happened. Now, I want to, with the donkeys and Russian army and everything, Russian army is a very, very top-heavy system. Meaning it's a very rigid. Meaning an order or a guideline comes down from the top. You gotta follow it. If you don't, you'll be punished. You'll be sent to meat wave. So you don't want to be sent to meat wave. So this is one of Russia's logistic trucks. There is a rule in the Russian army now, official passed down from the Ministry of Defense, that you cannot ride an unarmored, not armored vehicle, basically a soft target, without an EW jammer, electronic warfare jammer. So Russians are not producing enough of these EW jammers, but they cannot ride without them. But they need to ride because ammunition needs to be delivered. So what they do is they put this green bowl on top, because usually these jammers are underneath these bowls. So they just put an empty bowl on top. There's nothing inside, but it counts as a jammer bowl. They put it on top, and now by the law they can use this truck again, although there's no jammer. Russian ingenuity, my friends. Wow, wow, wow. Now we jump to Kursk Oblast, Russia. I don't even know if to say Russia or Ukraine, because Kursk and Belgorod or Pilhorod could be Ukraine also. Well, in this instance it is, because Detkino, however you call it, I mean, Ukrainians went again into Kursk from 3 sides, and right now we get reports of Detkino being surrounded, and even some reports that Ukrainian forces have already entered it. Now I'm here to say to you that Ukrainians did not go over the border with a massive enough of force to hold that area for a long time. This is again a short incursion, maybe a month maximum. They go in, they destroy everything, and finally Russians react and push them back out. We have seen this pattern for almost 2 years now, and it's good for the Ukrainians because they will pull out as soon as a major Russian resistance comes. But if there's none of that, they just destroy as much as they can. It's pretty much a hit and run, only it lasts a little bit longer and it maximizes the enemy losses, and everything is done to minimize your losses. So as soon as you run into massive resistance, you pull back. But at this instance, there was no massive resistance, only Russian losses and some Ukrainian losses. Now, my friends, we go to Ukrainian Verkhova Rada. I mean, the video is of Donald Trump, but Ukrainian Parliament or Verkhova Rada just ratified in a democratic way, because Ukraine is a democracy, in a democratic way, the US-Ukrainian mineral deal. Yes, it was signed, but it needed to be ratified by power structures of both sides. Well, yesterday, 8th of May, it was done. Ukrainian Parliament ratified the rare minerals agreement with the United States. President Trump commented, and I quote, "So I'm going to begin by just adding that we just concluded the rare earth deal with Ukraine. It's been fully ratified and approved by their legislative branches. We appreciate that. And I'll be speaking with the president in a little while." Yes, Zelensky and Trump had a phone call yesterday, a little bit later. We appreciate that. The deal is now signed and ratified. We have access to massive amount of very, very high quality rare earth. So this is a very good news for Ukraine, and with that comes 2 separate weapons sales packages to Ukraine. I'll say that again, not military aid. Yeah, not military aid. It's a business deal. Now Ukraine is buying weapons and services from the United States. So if you are a US taxpayer, just know this. Last 2 packages that Trump has approved have a massive price tag, and Ukraine is paying money, big money to the US to get those services. For example, the parts and training of the F-16s, that was like 310 million, and then 50 million worth of weapons were bought also with ammunition. So it's like 350 million altogether. It's a business deal with profits to the US. So it's a good news for American taxpayers. And I think this is what you wanted when you elected Trump. Not to give stuff away for free. Well, now you get money for it. And Zelensky gets weapons as he wants. So it's a win-win. Let's please be satisfied right now with it. Zelensky not a bad guy. Giving you money. Good guy. Alright, my friends, I think now with the shortest amount of time possible, you know the maximum amount of info possible. 9th of May parade just going on in Moscow right now. I don't have the footage yet, so next video you will see on Monday. I definitely will recap on what happened in Moscow, because I think some stuff will happen. Maybe some tanks will, not start, like one of the parades when the T-14 Armata just didn't start and they had to tow it away. Something like that might happen. It's a funny. So I'll bring it to you. Also, if you are a channel member, tomorrow, each Saturday, you'll be getting a separate members-only video. So if you haven't done it yet, Please go to any description video, become a channel member. There's a link. It's only 99 cents, so it's nothing. And you can get 4 extra in-depth analysis videos. This one, for example, is about Ukraine-USA mineral deal. What exactly is it about? What minerals? Who wins? All of that. Go and check it out. Until my next video, my friends, Slava Ukraini, and bye-bye. Save 40% on the Ground News Unlimited Access Vantage plan and see all sides of every story and come to your own conclusions. Thank you, Ground News, for sponsoring today's video.